So I think I can say good afternoon to everybody. We are all sitting somewhere in Europe, I assume. But if we have any participant from other parts of the globe, so whatever is relevant, good morning, good night. But for us, it's good afternoon for most of us. Thank you, Sherry, for the introduction. And thanks, Nicola, for making it happen. And thank you, all of you, for allocating your time, this 1 hour, to be together with us. So I think in terms of technology, I can be asking to Nicola to share the screen. Is that correct, Nicola? This is the way we move forward. So I'm gonna have a quick introduction to the topic. And then it's basically, we'll just go through into breakout sessions and come back in the big room very quickly. And that will be the part I'll be listening to you, because, you know, based on your conversation in the breakout sessions and all the things I'm going to share at the very beginning, this is a mutual learning. As it says, it's a dialogue. So I'll be sharing with you some of the things I see, how they develop, what's going on in the world. As Sherry said, we are kind of innovative in our approach. We don't want to be staying in the back, but front runner, innovatively following the latest developments in any domain, including the adult learning, the professional development. So that's why I will also very kindly asking for your comments in the second part of this session. And that will be an ongoing dialogue. So in case there's anything we miss, we will always have the opportunities to stay in touch. So Nicola, the next page, it's what we promised to you today is basically, there is a disruptive change going on. Some of them really algorithm-based. Some of them are supported by some new ways of approach by big platforms providing learning opportunities. As you know, HR in the company is going through a digital disruption period. L&D, functional learning and development, is definitely being affected. And combining the two, the skill, how people learn skills and how they show that they learn those skills, is a kind of big debate. It's not so recent. It's been like around for the last 5 years at least, but it's really becoming visible, especially with this pandemic, as we are all kind of confined and have to work and communicate from a distance. Those things become even more important. So maybe I can ask 3 minutes of your time, because there's a video that could be interesting to watch. Let's see whether it will work. Nicola, would you mind trying this? Yep.
Here we go.
Yep.
If I said to you, tell me about your health, and you said, I ran a marathon in 1999, that would be an absurd response. Not because marathons are bad, but because it informs so little of your health today. Yet, when I ask you, tell me about your education, and you respond with, I graduated in 99 in economics, that is equally as absurd. Not because degrees don't matter, but because it informs so little of your knowledge and experience today. For years, the college degree worked well enough as a way to show your foundation of knowledge, which helped you get the job where you slowly moved up the ranks and retired after 30 years at the same company. But the world doesn't work that way anymore. We are living in a world where the jobs and skills of the future haven't even been invented yet. To keep pace with that, our mission is to build a new way to measure people's skills. That certifies what you can do today, not what you learned 20 years ago. And the best part, it doesn't matter where you developed your skills.
I'm not saying education is a bad thing. Education is a good thing. It is a much slower to change machine than what's happening in corporations today. And so we've got to have a different answer that allows us to keep up. And that's what skills certification does.
So I think what we need is a common language of skills, not just across one company, but across industry.
But there's not really a codified single source of truth for what skills exist. If you knew the skills that your team had and you knew the skills they didn't have, you could plan for ways to close those skills gap.
So skills verification can be much more nimble, much more agile, and meet the true needs of changing businesses today.
Google doesn't require a college degree to work at Google. well, how are we going to know you're good at what you say you're good at? What I think we need to do is come up with ways to validate those skills, come up with ways to have a standard that says, I'm good at A or I'm good at B.
So Nicola, that's, I think,
saying that because I put it on my LinkedIn profile. I'm saying,
yeah. So then the rest of the video goes into a kind of repetition. So that's why I cut it short. Basically, we can go to the next slide, Nicola, by the way. Basically, the big question is, how can we know that we do possess some skills? And it comes with competencies, it comes with willingness to use these competencies, and it also goes with where and how do we know where to use those competencies. So put together, it's a part of the capacity building. And the whole world is debating this. The European Commission has some reports, some suggestions for the higher education system. They also open the debate for third-party providers like ourselves, the quality award providers, we accredit the coaching training. And the big debate is, given all this digitalization of what's going on in the world, and at the same time, the employers or the beneficiaries of coaching, the clients of our colleagues, when they want to really check out what's the skill level of a coach, is there a way to use technology? So that's the big question. So the questions, these are not the questions that I'm sending you to your breakout session, but these are the questions that we would like to answer all through this dialogue. How can we incorporate cloud-based integrated learning platforms in coach training and use this data for accreditation as well? How can we record the digitalized learning, the reflective journey that we follow in our process is also can be replicated with some digital data capturing tools. And the video that we just borrowed is one of those providers, for example. And then the second big question that we're searching the answer is, with whom we can team up. We're not in the training business, we are in the accreditation business. So our partners are you guys. You are the ones who provide this training to your participants. But how can we join our forces maybe with some other technology providers, digital signature, or the platforms for business communities and everything, so that what we claim, what we say that we accredit, what we verify, is really visible to the rest of the world. One of the, you can go to the next slide. One of the criticism about coaching is this is a profession. We can't really call it a profession, but let's say it's a profession, it's a practice that's been allocated to the privileged ones, because it's already very expensive. It's already very difficult to follow the whole training and the process. And today, when you ask the companies or the beneficiaries of coaching, it's one of the most expensive tools that they can deploy. So on one hand, we're talking about the democratization of coaching. So how can we make it sure that there are billions of people in the world who need coaching, and they don't necessarily need a coach, but maybe they need to learn the coaching skills so that they can apply in their own role. So maybe we change our accreditation process in EMCC with third-party quality assurance and everything. We allow our partners to do the recognition, let's say, or certification, the accreditation, designation, professional designations to their participants. And it goes so well. Some of our providers are providing foundation level training for, let's say, the UK police force or the healthcare service. Those people, they are not going to become a coach, professional coach, but they need coaching skills in their own daily life. So we did this very first step, changing our approach and processes. But the second stage how can we make even at a larger scale? And this is a piece that I borrowed from a report produced for European Commission. It's the European Commission, part of a Science for Policy joint research center. And they make a big distinction between the credentials, learning outcome, and the recognition of learning outcomes. So credentialization is now a pretty much embedded in the whole our higher education system, especially for the technical issues. So whenever you go to any IT developer or GitHub or whatever, when you check people, they all come with their badge, the badge system. I don't know whether this is applicable for coaching or not, but these are the way the learning and development is progressing. The next slide, Nicola, and I think this is the last one I'm going to share with you before I kind of do my introduction. And this is a model used for the recognition part. How can we make it sure that somebody has the skills they claim to have? So one part of this quality assurance, the credit awards, and there's the supervised assessment, which goes very well with our philosophy, because continuous professional development requires a supervision type of an accompaniment. And then there's this partnership and collaboration and certificate and badges. In your own training programs, in one way or another, you follow all this. So the metaphor goes, once you have the green light in every area, this is a great learning model. So we can really recognize. So I'm just questioning here today the badge system, the acknowledging of learning, the recognition of the learning part. Is there things that we can do in a different way to enhance? What I mean, for example, our approach for bespoke accreditation. So in the old times, you had to accredit the whole program to reach, I don't know, senior practitioner level. Today, we can go for module by module. So you can create a multi-modular system in order to reach that. So we are on the right track. We're moving towards the right track. But I don't know, and I want to hear at the end, second half of our session today, how you're coping with the social distancing. So how can we do more on the digital and technology side so that the social distancing, if it's just a few weeks, it's okay, but if it's become a new way of life, how can our schools can adapt? These are the big questions. In some technical areas, it's relatively easier, but for coaching where we require lots of tryouts, learning from each other, these kind of things, how can we embed more technology and the badge system in our methodology? I think, Nicola, if you can go for one more. Yep. So basically, this is what I want to say. That's the introduction. That's some of the ideas that keeps us busy in our thinking. Not urgent, but I believe we should focus on areas which are important and not urgent. And I think this is one of such areas. It's a very important area, not urgent yet, but we need to get prepared. So I would like to invite you, unless you have a burning question now for clarification or whatever, to invite you to some breakout rooms. Nicola will do it for us, where you will be able to meet and greet and learn about each other. So that's a part of it is to meet, to let the community meet, because we like you to have a dialogue, ongoing dialogue between yourselves, but also to focus on those three questions. How does it sound to you? How can you come up with some ideas about to incorporate those concepts into coaching training and even for professional designations for coaching? And to move forward, what challenges and opportunities do you see?
Perfect. Okay, so getting back to things, room one, who is your nominated person and what were your thoughts?
So I'll take that.
Thanks, Andrew.
One is that distance learning certainly works, can really work well, can enhance the training, but it can't fully replace face-to-face, being in the same room. We mentioned a few different examples of things that do work well. One that occurred was Open University has been doing remote training for forever, and that obviously works well. The recent coaching things are WBECS. They give coach training. You know, a lot of people know that. And there are quite a number of online coaching platforms now. I mean, I've got experience of using one or doing one, and that it does work. It can work really well. And a couple of people in the room have got the challenge at the moment of converting training to, you know, online platforms.
Online.
And the last point we made was about the distinction between certification and accreditation. And the person, the video at the start was saying, well, you know, you may have got a certificate in, you know, 1853 or whatever it was, but that what you really need is to be accredited with what you know now. So that's the difference.
Okay.
That's it from us.
Brilliant.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andrew. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go around to all the rooms, and then Riza will respond to your comments after that. So thanks very much, Andrew, for starting that off. Room 2, can we have your nominated person and your comments, please?
In room 2, okay. I am a representative of a team.
Hello.
So very quickly, the subject that we, what was the position of each of us? We agree with the president's remark concerning distance learning. I mean, right? It's can we really replace face-to-face, let's say, or in-class learning with distance learning? That's an issue. And how much can we replace? Is it 100%? Is it some things have to be kept in class training, because we know also that in-class learning has some kind of energy, has some kind of interactive dialogue, but cannot be replaced by electronic contact. So, but is it okay? Finally, are we sentimentally attached to that?
Yeah,
And we should not. This is a question, and also it's a question for MCC, because MCC on this is the guardian for us of the standards, of the quality standards. So, for example, what should be the evolution of the quality standard in terms of training with the MCC? For example, now MCC requires in-class training. Should it be replaced by something else? But what? This is, I think, something that concerns all the providers and all the MCC. I mean, right? It's not a personal question. The second thing that was about also is how can we learn also online coaching? Because online coaching, because for example in the education now, online coaching, virtual coaching is something that's coming in the life of all of us. So it's probably something that is that has some characteristic different than other coaching. We had a remark concerning interactive workshop. Can we really work interactive workshops? It's related to the first problematic, but it was expressed differently. Especially, for example, when take into consideration non-verbal communication. So how we capture that? Do we need to capture that as well? This is the other question. So these are more or less the 3-4 remarks around the questions of Riza.
Okay, thank you, Giddes. Thank you so much, Group 2. Group 3, can we go to you, please?
Yes, I'm Kirsty. I'm representing Group 3, and
hi, Kirsty.
So essentially, we thought it sounded not only good, but we are all very much experiencing a lot of online learning, and also the pressure to shift fast. And there were some amongst us who were already experienced in terms of coach training and having to shift in the last few weeks to learning how to apply this now in terms of a sort of going totally online. So it's a very, very fast learning, and it's got to happen.
Yes.
We're doing it. So it sounded good. Some of our suggestions were things like there is already a plethora of available excellent online training. A lot of the universities are very advanced in a lot of learning as well that we can piggyback on. There would be a lot of scope for picking from the best, and so we saw, and one of the great opportunities is the ability to have a global interaction without having to travel, which obviously is very, very exciting part of this online world. So suggestions, we think that technology is not a barrier. Most of us are, and I think most of us who are coaching online are finding it a very effective tool. Also, those of us who have done some training online, it is very effective as well. It's not the same, but it's different as opposed to worse or better.
Thank you, Kirsty. Kay, I think Kay might have actually gone off. I know she was having problems with her internet connection.
No, I'm here, Shai.
Okay.
The only comment I was making as we were cut off is I think that there's huge scope here for coaching being a less privileged service than it already is. And I suppose because most of my work has to be pro bono or is a very low cost because it's with NGOs and non-profits, and the difficulty they have getting funding because things aren't accredited, I think that we could really, really expand the services and the potential of coaching if we could move in this direction. So that was the comment. But thanks for asking.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Kay. Thanks, Kay. Thanks, Kay and Kirsty. Riza will respond to you guys as well. So let's go to room 4. I think we're at now.
Yeah, it's Meryl Moritz here. My team is 4, and Peter, Martin, Luciana, and Louise and I started in a lot of inquiry, and some people are actually participating right now in virtual training and finding it very effective. And some people have coached virtually for a long time. I myself received 100% virtual training for my first training. So we have varying degrees of familiarity with it. And I think there was a risk of losing, as other groups have mentioned, losing that intimacy that comes with coach training, which is so incredible and so generous, a learning platform, just being in coach training. So, however, we're in the VUCA world. We didn't use that expression because it's getting, we're getting beaten over the head with VUCA, and yet this is the flexibility, I think, the agility that a coach has to have just to work with a vast array of different kinds of personalities. But I think one of the big questions was, well, what do we lose by going virtual? Maybe it's connection, but I think one of the things is the opportunity, as someone raised, that perhaps the learning style, the different learning styles right now, the way that is being delivered, are not going to get served. So maybe there's an extroversion, introversion challenge happening. Maybe it's a cultural thing that happens. People don't want to speak up. So I think that the underlying challenge is, how does the training provider really accommodate all the learning styles to truly democratize the offering? So another question was, there's an advantage, and people mentioned it already, if corporations increasingly are funding coach training for people on a wider scale, not people who are going to hang up a sign that says coach, but working with coaching skills inside of organizations, their spend is going to be much smaller now. It'll be for the quality of the training, and it puts a pressure on the trainers to have high quality because it's not as high touch. So they have to have high quality, but it's also reducing the expense. And in today's world, I think that's really critical. But also for the individuals, when we limp back to an economy that's more stable, we're going to be very prudent about our spend. And I also like the comment Kay made, the democratization being people of all venues. It's much easier to scholarship people when you're offering a virtual program than when you're renting space, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a great thing. Maybe that's what we can all volunteer. Like, I'm offering this and your fee is going to help, like we're going to set 10 scholarships for this training. I'm already excited about that prospect. And let me just see one other thing. Help. Oh, that coaches from different backgrounds will find their way into this if and I think what goes to their point again, if we are so vigilant and disciplined about making every learning style welcome and every cultural style welcome. And I like the question, don't we all need supervision? Yeah, maybe there's a new level of supervision, supervising the trainers of coaching for this democratized state. So did my group, did I serve you well, or shall I be evicted from my job?
You were brilliant, Meryl. I'll attest to that. Thank you. So moving on quickly now to room 5. Thank you, Meryl. Thanks very much from group 4. Group 5, who have we got?
Hi, so I'm Olivia Gadd.
Hi, Olivia.
I'd like to thank Paddy, Nikki, Manon and Raja for a really great conversation. I'm very aware we've got 11 minutes to close, so I won't repeat things that we'd already covered. We touched on a number of things. And certainly there's an interesting thing about that opportunity for more cross-border, cross-cultural training. And also those people who currently find it hard to find accredited training would now be able to get their AQA more readily if there was more online available. An interesting challenge. Paddy mentioned that having trained a lot of people in a virtual training space, they actually were a little tentative moving into real life. So I think it's interesting that those people who have learnt in real life are a little tentative about going online, and we need to think about how do we support people in both modes. So if we're training people online, how do we actually get them to be comfortable when they actually have to, gosh, sit down in a real live room with another real live human and not have that screen in between them? I thought that was a fascinating point. And interested to learn that in Ireland, quite a lot of the universities and other trainers are taking that on board and working in a blended fashion. And the final point I wanted to make, I actually work inside a corporate, and we fully internally train, supervise and accredit people and credentialize people in our organization, and it's global. And I've thought for a long time it would be interested to blend our learning more. We rely too much, I think, on face-to-face. So we supervise online and we do other bits, but our training itself is in 2-day workshops, flying people from around the world. And I think that this is a really exciting opportunity when we're allowed to have more movement, that we would do a little bit of both so that people have that comfort, both virtual and real life. So I'm going to stop there. I think I've gone on further than I meant to, but it was a really rich conversation. Thanks, guys, for that.
Thanks, Olivia, and thanks to everyone for contributing and giving such really, really insightful thoughts about the questions. So, Riza, I'm going to hand over to you now to respond.
First of all, I'm amazed and I'm so grateful for the positivity. Instead of seeing this as a challenge or a difficulty or end of our story, whatever, I really kind of feel inspired with the motivation and energy in the room. So that's great. So once we have this attitude, it's much easier to move forward, of course. So I'm not going to repeat everything said. I agree almost with everything that you have mentioned. One thing that maybe I didn't elaborate enough is the capturing the learning. Because I know there are already great virtual training sessions, and in the accreditation, we also have our methodology to capture the learning. But maybe in the capturing of learning part, we need to also deploy more technology. I mean, when you read a paper on YouTube or watching a video there, or your part of the learning also happens online now, irrelevant of your coaching specific training, because you got inspiration and learning from different parts of your life. And we do also take into account your past experience, which means your learning outside of your coaching training is also very valuable. And deploying more digital tools to capture this will be a part of our challenge. Yes, you're right. It's an opportunity for us, for EMCC. Gilles said it. We need to adapt, and we are in the process of getting adapted. And already some of the EQA providers, they came with excellent suggestions how to incorporate more they already have some online elements, but more. I fully agree with the cost, travel, additional challenges, rent, whatever, so we don't need that. So that's an opportunity as well. And the supervision. In the context of the training provider, we use the third-party quality assurance. And it's an ongoing dialogue. It's also ongoing partnership. So supervision, maybe we should look, because we don't really define too much how this third-party assurance should go. But maybe there are things that we can get inspired from our supervision framework, so that we can also embed in our third-party quality assurance. So that's what a good point, very good point. I will look into that with our colleagues, whether it makes sense or not. And you're right, already we have excellent training providers, online programs, but do we really train our participants for online delivery? I don't know. That's something to be looked at. And I like this comment, the online feeling comfortable, they don't want to go to offline and vice versa. That's an interesting topic. And agility. It's a word we use a lot, but do we really talk about agility in our coach training curriculum? I don't know. And the last thing, there's a topic that we are bringing in our debate in EMCC, because we already have this inclusion bit. And now we are also looking into cultural bit. And culture doesn't mean different countries or culture. It's like my subculture is different than my next door neighbor's culture. So how do we live together? It's a part of a larger inclusion debate. But it goes for, of course, the nationalities, cultures, continents, or history, or whatever. But basically, before we go there, it's the same set of attitudes, how we get along well with other cultures or subcultures. So it's a part of the coaching non-judgmental stance or dialogue. It's a part of it. But do we really articulate it enough? So these were all great learning for me. Thank you very much. And already my colleagues Shelley and Nicola, they are a part of this group, volunteer group, who are working with great dedication to make things even better for our community. So I think if I summarize that way, would it be fair? I don't know. If anything that you would like to add, as we have a few more minutes left, I'd be open to listen to you.
From Louise Goodman, what is the impact of larger inclusion on coachability?
But still, Louise, what is larger? The key, the word larger. What do you mean with larger?
Yeah, because we said we can address a much wider range of people from very many different nationalities. And I think the idea of coachability, maybe we are used to a certain kind of coachability. Maybe we could, maybe reflect a bit on that and see how to adapt this idea to other cultures and audiences. I don't think it's so easy. I mean, for me.
I understand. Thank you very much. Yeah, good point.
So sorry, Riza.
I think we're time, isn't it, Shelley?
Yes, we're nearly at time. So I think unless anybody else has anything that they want to say, I think you'll all join me in thanking Riza and Nicola. So I want to thank you all very much for taking time out of what is probably really crazy days for you at the moment to join us on this. And I hope you will join us on the next webinar. It was lovely. I saw quite a few people that I know personally, so I was delighted to see you online as well. So take care, everyone. Stay safe, and we hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.
And we just finished on time. Thank you.
Thanks, Riza.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.